Your baby cried. Your cat went completely still, ears forward, eyes fixed. And before you could react, they were already moving toward the sound. Your first instinct was probably to intervene, to pull your cat back, to manage the moment. But that response you just watched was not something to manage. It was something to understand. And what it actually means is going to change the way you see your cat entirely. Here is what nobody tells you about that first cry. Moving toward an unfamiliar distress sound is not a neutral response. Most animals retreat from unknown signals. Your cat moved closer. That distinction is not small. It is the behavioral signature of a bond that had already been forming in silence since the day your baby came home. You heard the warnings. Keep the cat away. You can't trust an animal around a newborn. Some people told you to rehome them before the baby even arrived. And you stayed. You chose to believe that the animal who had been sleeping beside you through every hard night of your pregnancy was not suddenly going to become a danger to your child. Research on feline attachment behavior consistently shows that cats form secure bonds with the humans they live with, bonds that extend naturally to new members of the household. Your instinct was not naive. It was right. And the 6 things your cat did in that first moment are the proof. 1. They froze in complete sensory focus. The first thing most cats do when they hear a newborn cry for the first time is go absolutely still. Not the stillness of fear, the stillness of full concentration. Every muscle suspends. The ears rotate independently toward the source. The eyes fix and hold. From across the room, it can look like your cat is simply startled. But what is actually happening is a complete activation of their sensory system. Cats can isolate and analyze sounds at frequencies far beyond human range, and a newborn's cry contains layers of acoustic and chemical information that their brain begins processing immediately. Researchers studying feline auditory sensitivity have documented this freeze response as a precursor to approach behavior in bonded cats, distinct from the freeze that precedes retreat in unfamiliar or threatening situations. The direction that follows the stillness tells you everything. And your cat's direction was always toward your baby. 2. They turned their entire body before they moved. Before your cat took a single step, their whole body oriented toward the sound. Head, shoulders, spine all pointing in the same direction. This is called an orienting response, and in feline behavior research, it carries significant meaning. Studies from the University of Lincoln found that cats display this full-body orientation toward familiar humans in distress at rates measurably higher than toward strangers making identical sounds. Your baby had been home for days or weeks by then. Your cat had been quietly mapping their scent, their breathing patterns, their presence in every room. That turn was not toward an unknown sound. It was toward someone they had already begun to recognize as theirs. The body moved because something inside them had already made a decision. 3. They approached instead of retreating. This is the response that surprises people most. The default reaction of most animals to an unfamiliar distress signal from a being they haven't fully bonded with is distance. Distance is safety. Distance is the most deeply wired response to uncertainty in almost every species. But your cat closed the distance. John Bradshaw, whose decades of research on domestic cat behavior remain among the most cited in the field, has documented that approach behavior during distress events is reserved almost exclusively for individuals cats have formed genuine attachment bonds with. They do not move toward strangers in distress. They do not move toward animals they merely tolerate. The approach is a social act. It is a declaration. Your cat walking toward your crying baby said, without any words, "This one is someone I have already decided to watch over." If what you're hearing right now is making you see that first moment differently, take a second and share this with another mom who is still carrying that doubt about keeping her cat. She needs to hear this more than she knows. 4. They investigated with their nose before anything else. If your cat got close enough, the next thing they did was smell. Slowly. With that focused deliberateness that probably made you hold your breath. Not a brief sniff. A sustained investigation that looked almost careful. Here is what that meant. When your baby cried, their body released stress hormones that altered their scent at a chemical level imperceptible to you but entirely readable to your cat. Research published in Applied Animal Behavior Science has documented this olfactory assessment behavior in cats, monitoring vulnerable members of their social group. Your cat was not examining your baby out of predatory curiosity. They were running a comparison, checking the scent they had already memorized against the new information the cry had introduced. They were asking, in the only language available to them, whether everything was okay. That smell was a welfare check, the feline equivalent of leaning over and making sure nothing had changed in a way that required a response. 5. They looked at you directly afterward. After the approach, after the smell, your cat looked at you. Not a passing glance. A held, deliberate gaze that lasted longer than usual. Researchers who study feline social cognition call this social referencing. It is the behavior of an individual who has gathered new information and is now checking with a trusted companion to calibrate their next response. Mikel Delgado, whose research focuses on feline cognition and the cat-human bond, has documented that cats engage in social referencing with their primary humans in ways that suggest a genuine consultative relationship. Your cat looked at you because you are their anchor in uncertain moments. They had just encountered something significant, and their instinct after investigating was to check what you thought about it. That look was not confusion. It was communication. It was your cat saying, "I have assessed this, and now I am checking in with you." 6. They stayed until it was over. This is the most important thing your cat did. After all of it, after the freeze and the turn and the approach and the smell and the look, they did not leave. A cat that encounters something uncertain or threatening creates distance. Always. That is the most reliable behavioral response in their entire repertoire. But your cat settled near you or near your baby and remained present until the crying stopped and the room went quiet again. Research on feline proximity behavior has found that bonded cats who approach during a distress event are significantly more likely to stay close until the distress resolves compared to their baseline behavior during calm periods. Your cat was not confused. They were not too uncertain to leave. They made the only kind of choice an animal can make. They decided that wherever you and your baby were was where they needed to be until everything was okay. You did not know what you were watching when it happened. You saw your cat move towards your crying baby, and you felt that complicated mix of wonder and worry. But now you know exactly what each of those 6 things meant. The stillness was attention. The turn was recognition. The approach was belonging. The smell was care. The look was trust. And the staying was devotion, quiet and complete, offered without being asked for, without being trained, without needing any instruction at all. Your cat did not learn how to respond in that moment. They already knew. Because somewhere in the weeks before that first cry, your baby had already become someone worth staying close to. That is who your cat is. And that first cry was simply the moment you finally got to see it. Drop a comment below and tell me what your cat did the first time your baby cried. I read every single one.